Good evening. A leaking roof at this Toronto school became the catalyst for a fiery debate in the legislature today.
Facing questions about the state of schools in this province, the education minister accused the TDSB of sitting on money meant to keep schools in good repair. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight outside Humberside Collegiate with more. Siobhan.
Well, lots of accusations flying on this issue, from money hoarding to decades of neglect. At the center of it, though, is the students and teachers who come to Humberside Collegiate every day. There are 20 spots inside this school that need to be checked when it rains. The TDSB says it's going to take a policy change to prevent other schools like this one from slipping through the cracks. Rain inside a Toronto school, water coursing down the stairs, pooling up to be almost ankle deep. It's what the local MPP encountered at Humberside Collegiate Monday when she showed up for an event. The problem so bad, a stairwell needed to be closed. Access to some classes and lockers blocked.
It's also a serious health and safety issue. Minister, you know the problem very well. You have underfunded school repairs for years.
An accusation the education minister bristled at, putting the blame with the Toronto District School Board, where the repair backlog has stretched to $4 billion.
Our school board is sitting on $300 million of banked cash instead of spending it on that very roof. It's such an egregious. No, don't wave your head. Don't shake your head.
The TDSB counters that it's lined up $380 million worth of repairs, but approvals take time and they're facing delays, locking up materials and qualified tradespeople. It means the board's aging schools get worse waiting for repairs. Humberside Collegiate was built in the 1890s, surviving world wars, pandemics, and its age shows. The roof, flagged as an urgent priority last year, remains leaky.
It's all dark, the lights stopped working. It's the floor is covered in like dirt and stuff.
The state of the school, it's messed up. Like it's almost as drowning as like the Pacific Ocean mixed with the Atlanta. Like you can't walk there, you can't move. It's like please fix our school.
It's something the TDSB and opposition say the government needs to do more to help out with.
You are the Minister of Education. The buck stops with you. Fix it!
One of the other challenges the TDSB has identified is just the sheer number of schools they have to take care of. They're asking the province to lift their moratorium on schools so they can consolidate ones that are underused. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still ahead tonight, this happened today, a snapshot of the dangers of Avenue Road as the city deems a stretch of the street to be a safety concern. Signaling bike lanes could be one answer to a safer street. 5 more Ontario school boards have now joined a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the world's largest social media companies.
At issue whether the apps were designed to be addictive to children and whether they led to a disruption in classroom learning. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the details.
The relationship between students and their cell phones can be described as,
if I'm being honest, the first word that comes to mind is probably addiction.
And that constant pull to be in touch with social media often leads to feeling
kind of guilty. And I realized like social media is not going to be there for me when I'm in university and stuff.
It's those type of student admissions why 5 new school boards and 2 private schools have signed on to a lawsuit against big tech companies, seeking an additional $2.5 billion in damages. The lawsuit was first filed in March by 4 different Ontario school boards, seeking $4.5 billion in compensation.
The next piece is getting those tech giants to be able to say, oh, wait a second, maybe we did play a part in this. Maybe we did have a negative influence. Maybe we can make some changes.
The lawsuit is against the owners of social media apps, including Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram. It claims the companies either knowingly or negligently designed addictive products, which have led to a disruption in classrooms and in young people's day-to-day lives in the form of poor mental health.
This goes beyond just, the use of cell phones in school or the ordinary use of the product. This is really about its specific impact on kids and how it impacts their brains, really.
However, the lawsuit is being criticized by the Ontario government. The province says the cell phone ban it announced last month, which will take effect next school year, is the better move.
Instead of large litigation, they ought to be focused on actually countering the threats online. We have reached out to social media executives as well as the OPP commissioner. We look forward to meeting with them in the next month.
although the opposition believes those meetings will be a waste of time.
I'm happy to see the school boards going after the social media companies, and the government should be right there with them. You know, this is not about playing nice and setting up nice little meetings. That's not going to move them at all.
The law firm representing the school board say none of the schools will be expected to pay any of the legal fees associated with the lawsuit unless a successful outcome is reached. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
All right, looking at the forecast now, here's a live look at the city. The water's looking pretty comfortable out there. A few clouds, but sunny skies expected over the next few days, and temperatures are rising, something to look forward to. Here's Jessica Smith with a look at the current conditions. Jessica.
We've had two areas of high pressure, Nathan, push their way in, move that active weather out, and behind it, a much more stable air mass, making for a beautiful day. We lost a little bit of the humidity, but that's maybe a good thing for the folks who aren't quite ready for that leap into summer just yet, and a northerly flow to the winds helping that significantly. Temperature-wise, we're kind of in the mid to upper teens for the most part as we step into that second half of our day. To the islands and Pearson, between 18 and about 19 degrees tonight. We're dipping shy of seasonal. Some areas have frost advisories. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast right now. It's back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. A proposal to add bike lanes along a stretch of Avenue Road will go before City Council next month.
The move comes after a cyclist was struck and killed in the area last month. CTV's Mike Walker is live tonight with details and reaction from riders and residents. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, this stretch of Avenue Road is a major artery in and out of the downtown. Cyclists say those lanes are needed to improve safety, but opponents to the proposal, including drivers and people who live in the area, say it will only add to congestion. This is an example of how dangerous Avenue Road can be. Our cameras capture a dump truck colliding with a vehicle. The women inside the car jumping out, appearing to be uninjured. According to the city, there have been nearly 1,000 collisions here over the past decade.
Avenue Road is basically a raceway.
In an attempt to make this road safer, the city is now considering adding bike lanes along Avenue Road between Bloor and Davenport.
As a cyclist, it makes me feel safer.
Welcome news for cyclists like Chris, who say it's too dangerous.
It's when the cars and the bikes get moving different speeds, that's when it's gets a bit, I don't know, a bit unnerving.
Potential change the Avenue Road Safety Coalition says is long overdue.
Honestly, it's one of the most dangerous roads in the city to both walk and cycle on. So this is long overdue, and we could have had some preventable deaths if we'd not been stuck in bureaucracy.
According to the city, 30,000 vehicles travel through the area every day. The plan would see the current 6 lanes reduced to 4 to accommodate the bike lanes.
It's going to cause unnecessary congestion on these very busy streets, and they don't get that heavily used.
We're just going to be traffic everywhere. It's like they're trying to make more traffic.
Since 2015, 3 cyclists have been killed in the area. The most recent incident was on April 30th, when a cyclist was struck by a flatbed truck.
That gentleman would not have died if there had been a bike lane on this road.
Diane Sachs is a local councillor who has been advocating for the change.
The Avenue Road between DuPont and Bloor is one of the most dangerous parts of my ward. There have been hundreds of accidents.
A staff report notes the addition of bike lanes would increase travel times for motorists by a minute.
These bike lanes aren't being used on the major arterial roads.
Trevor Towson is with advocacy group Keep Toronto Moving. He argues the city should consider alternate roads, including side streets, to expand its bike network.
There's already dedicated bike lanes. One major arterial road east of Avenue Road on Yonge Street has been an unmitigated disaster with congestion all day long.
Now, this report will go back to City Council at its meeting on June 26. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. A Toronto member of Parliament is calling for more to be done to address threats against lawmakers after her constituency office was vandalized with a message related to the war in Gaza. Liberal MP Julie Zurwitz represents the riding of Davenport. She confirmed yesterday her Bloor Street office was spray painted with the words "Rafah is burning, Toronto will too." The paint was removed, but remnants were visible on the sidewalk today. Zurwitz spoke about the incident from Ottawa.
Peaceful protests are okay, and I've had peaceful protests. I go out, I say hello to them, I meet with them, I talk to them. Vandalism is not okay. Threatening your MPs is not okay.
A sign calling for an arms embargo on Israel was posted on her office window today. The Toronto Police Hate Crimes Unit is investigating the spray painting incident. Zerwitz says she does not believe it was hate speech, but rather threatening language and behavior.
At the University of Toronto today, a planned meeting between encampment organizers and school officials was moved till later in the week.
The move comes with an injunction hearing still days away, and word more than 20 parties have filed for intervener status in the case. CTV's Sean Leithong is live on campus tonight to explain what that might mean as the school, Sean, prepares to host graduation ceremonies next week.
Yeah, Michelle, they're supposed to happen on Monday, and a spokesperson for the encampment that I spoke to today said the reason they're pushing back their meeting is because all of the documents were filed. There were more than 1,000 pages their lawyers have to go through. So they wanted to push back negotiations while they wait to find out when the date is of that injunction hearing. Any hope for a quick resolution is on hold as encampment protesters and the university wait to hear from the judge.
We are hoping, and we were told that either today or early tomorrow we will have an official date set for the injunction hearing.
Yesterday, the two sides appeared in a case conference with the hopes of setting a date for an injunction hearing, but the meeting ran long as more than 20 parties filed applications for intervener status.
Interveners are permitted to participate in litigation when it is judged that they may have something unique to contribute to the case.
Parties like the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, the United Steelworkers Union, and B'nai B'rith have applied for status. Windsor University law professor Richard Moon says he expects the hearing to be held soon, but
I think the university has a bit of a challenge here. The issue for a court when deciding whether an injunction in a case like this should issue has to do with whether or not the harm to the university as a consequence of the encampment is greater than the harm to the freedom of expression or protest rights that the participants in the encampment have.
Moon says claims that the campus is unavailable to the university community aren't strong as the lawn where the encampment is set up has been fenced off for years for construction, and there hasn't been any definitive evidence of hate speech coming from inside.
In the absence of any clear evidence that hate speech is coming out of this encampment or the encampment is interfering with the ordinary operation of the university, I think the university maybe has a tough sell.
Moon says he expects court to move quickly, but as time passes, one problem appears to be creeping up for the university.
Graduation starts on Monday, and from what has been communicated to us is that the injunction hearing will not even begin before Monday.
The two sides are expected to meet again at the negotiating table on Friday, with the university saying they're ready to meet anytime. So I've been in contact with the encampment protesters, and as of right now, it seems they have not heard back anything from the judge. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Elementary school teachers now know how much the salaries will be increasing under their collective agreement ratified late last year. The contract agreed to by the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario said compensation would be decided by arbitration. That process is now complete. The union says the board awarded its 80,000 members salary increases of just over 11%, spread over from 2022 to 2026. EDFO says teachers are set to get retroactive payments where necessary, and the award is final and binding.
Concerns tonight from some parents in Peel Region over what they say is a rise in anti-Palestinian racism and Islamophobia within the Peel District School Board.
They say a double standard is being applied to a number of topics, from historical events to politics. CTV's Beth McTonnell explains.
A group of citizens and parents are voicing concerns about the Peel District School Board neglecting to address a rise of anti-Palestinian racism and Islamophobia. In one case, they believe an administrator removed a celebrated piece of artwork locked in a display case which had the words "Free Palestine." After the child got upset, the parents were too scared to deal with the fallout.
What has that taught that girl about freedom of expression? That there is none, right? That she can't actually be free in expressing herself because it'll be limited in some way.
In other cases, they say it has been educators who have faced consequences.
Teachers have been sent home and suspended just for putting up student work that had the word genocide and Palestine on it. This was, very disturbing because a lot of other staff found out about this, and they're terrified to support anything that students want to put out in terms of Palestine.
The group says there are students who are being treated unfairly and don't feel safe, and a double standard is being applied to topics around justice, historical events, and politics. In a statement, the PDSB says it takes immediate action when we receive reports of discrimination and/or inappropriate actions committed by students or staff. We will continue to focus on serving students and staff with compassion and care, using trauma-informed approaches while upholding their dignity and human rights. Shortly after the Israel-Hamas conflict began, the Minister of Education issued a memo telling Ontario educators to be proactive, compassionate, and determined to stop forms of hate, and that there is no room for influence of personal opinions or worldviews in Ontario classrooms. The group says the artwork was not hateful in any way, and it's time the board take proactive steps to ensure the rights and well-being of Palestinian and Muslim students. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Toronto Public Health is sharing new figures on how many lives were claimed by the drug toxicity crisis in the city last year. In 2023, preliminary numbers show 523 opioid toxicity fatalities were reported. The vast majority of them were deemed accidental. That's an increase from 490 deaths reported the year prior. Officials also noted the dramatic increase since prior to the pandemic. 301 deaths were reported in 2019.
A man was found without vital signs this afternoon in Pickering. It happened at around 2 o'clock near Brock Road and Kingston Road. Witnesses report hearing a loud bang near a power line and then finding the man laying on the ground. Durham Regional Police say the Ministry of Labor is now investigating.
Toronto police are trying to identify a suspect who allegedly sexually assaulted a 16-year-old girl last Saturday. This happened near St. Clair and Oakwood shortly before 1 a.m. Police say the girl got off a bus and was approached by an unknown man. He allegedly followed her and then sexually assaulted her. The suspect is described as 25 to 35 years old, about 5 foot 10 inches tall, weighing 160 pounds, with a medium muscular build and short black hair. You're asked to call police or Crime Stoppers if you have any information.
A man's in hospital following a crash in Mississauga last night. It happened shortly before 9 near Bristol and Mavis Roads. Peel paramedics say 2 vehicles collided. One person was taken to a Toronto area trauma center with serious injuries. The cause of the crash remains under investigation.
Today marks 3 years since a horrific shooting at a family-owned Mississauga restaurant. A shooting Crown attorneys have tied to the people running a business, sending profits to a listed terrorist group. As
CTV's John Woodward reports, we're learning more about that business, including a bad deal shortly before the murder that cost everyone involved a lot of money.
Prosecutors say the slender figure in these stills from surveillance cameras is the gunman as he ran from the Chickenland restaurant in May 2021 after shooting 5 people, most members of the Akil family that operates the restaurant. 25-year-old Naeem Akil shot dead. Authorities say the gunman is Anand Nath and that he jumped into the trunk of a waiting Honda Accord driven by Suleiman Raza. The Accord sped off. Police used traffic cameras, dash cams, and other surveillance video to track it to a Mississauga warehouse, a business called TriaLink, run by Nakash Abbasi, who advertised on social media.
Welcome to TriaLink. Well, come on in. Let me show you what's going on here.
One witness, Amar Hashmi, testified he was Akil's best friend and brought him on board at TriaLink. He testified the friends invested their own cash. The business ordered cheap products from overseas and then resold those products on Amazon locally for a profit. Hashmi testified Abbasi made a mistake in early 2021, ordering thousands of dollars of Monopoly board games that turned out to be knockoffs. Clients tried to sell them, but Amazon shut down their accounts. Hashmi said that mistake personally cost him $10,000. The jury heard a recording Hashmi made of a conversation where Akil offered to walk away from the loss, leaving Abbasi with $15,000 worth of these products. Abbasi responded by swearing at him and insulting him. The Crown says Akil also realized that this business was sending money overseas to the listed terrorist group, the Islamic State, and was going to go to the authorities, and that Abbasi, Nath, and Raza killed him to keep it quiet. The trio has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder and attempted murder charges. The court has heard Raza's phone had many videos of Islamic State propaganda, but Hashmi said he wasn't a part of it. You never saw anyone pledge allegiance to ISIS? Asked Abbasi's lawyer, Adam Newman. No, responded Hashmi. That's not something you would stand for, correct? Asked Newman. Correct, Hashmi said. After the shooting, Peel police seized Raza's Honda Accord and found bloodstains in the trunk. The jury has heard the DNA matched Akil's. John Woodward, CTV News.
The federal government announced more than $11 billion to improve military aircraft training in this country. Defense Minister Bill Blair shared the news at a defense industry trade show in Ottawa. Those billions of dollars will go towards upgrades to training platforms, including the purchase of 70 training aircraft for the Future Aircrew Training Program. Canada remains on track to spend 1.76% of GDP on defense by 2029-2030. That's lower than the NATO target, which Ottawa says it's still committed to reaching.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to attend a pair of international gatherings in Europe next month with global conflicts at the top of the agenda. The PM will arrive in Italy June 13th for the G7 Leaders Summit. Trudeau's office says he'll use the event to share messages on promoting democracy and combating foreign interference, among other priorities. He'll also hold bilateral meetings with other leaders and discuss the Israel, Hamas, and Russia-Ukraine wars. Then he'll head to Switzerland for a peace summit organized at the request of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
After Calgary police broke up a pro-Palestinian encampment this month, their response is the focus of a debriefing tonight at the city's police commission. A police report says officers were called to the University of Calgary the morning of May 9th as people started to set up tents. The Calgary Police Service says it tried to de-escalate throughout the day and gave several warnings to leave, which dozens heeded, but many did not. It alleges bottles were thrown at officers during a final negotiation, and they were met with physical force when they tried to clear the camp. Critics, including university members, say the use of force by police was disproportionate. Israel deepened its incursion into Rafah, as it says is pursuing Hamas militants in the southern Gaza City.
But with dozens of Palestinian civilians killed in recent days alone and many others injured, more than 1 million have already fled the area, a figure that continues to grow. Displaced Palestinians headed to the city of Khan Yunis, many saying they were unsure of where they could go that would be safe. Israel's military, meanwhile, said it had taken control of a strategic corridor running along the Egyptian border, where it says it identified several new cross-border tunnels. It also continues to hold the crucial Rafah crossing with Egypt. This comes as a ceasefire and hostage exchange deal between Israel and Hamas remains out of reach.
We're crying for a political agreement. There is no horizon here.
In Tel Aviv today, a group of mothers of Israeli soldiers blocked roads and covered themselves in red paint in a protest against the government. They called on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reach a deal with Hamas. Netanyahu has said he's determined to keep targeting the group in Gaza. Hamas has said it won't agree to any hostage release or pause in fighting unless Israel's incursion stops.
South Africans went to the polls today in what could be a pivotal election 30 years after the end of apartheid. Millions stood in long lines for the chance to cast their ballots. The ruling African National Congress is expected to have the largest share of votes, but for the first time in decades, polls have suggested it could fall short of a majority, with potential to shift how the country is governed. Vote counting is ongoing.
The hush money case against former U.S. President Donald Trump is now in the hands of the jury.
CTV's Joy Malvin has the details on what those 12 New Yorkers have been told to consider as they deliberate their verdict.
Judge Juan Merchan took an hour to instruct the jury of 7 men and 5 women, telling them, "It is not my responsibility to judge the evidence here. You are the judges of the facts." The jury is composed of lawyers, teachers, and juror number 2 follows Donald Trump on Truth Social. The former president faces 34 criminal charges of falsifying business records in a scheme to pay hush money to actor Stormy Daniels to buy her silence before voters went to the polls in 2016. Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer who went to jail for the crime, testified it was to save Trump's presidential campaign. Trump's lawyers called Cohen the MVP of liars, saying he shouldn't be trusted. The judge warned the jury to use Cohen's testimony only if it's backed up by other evidence. And Trump's choice not to testify, the judge said, is not an indication of guilt. Trump has denied it all and once again ranted about the trial and complaining about waiting in a cold courtroom while the jury deliberates his fate.
Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
Whatever the jury decides, it must be unanimous. And when it comes to Trump's presidential bid, yes, he can still be president even if he's found guilty.
Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
Hundreds of thousands of homes are still without power in parts of the U.S. after powerful storms battered several states.
We're lucky that it's been relatively mild weather in the mid-80s for highs, but we know this is a multi-day event.
Thunderstorms spawned tornadoes across several states over the weekend, killing at least 21 people. In Dallas, the storm ripped the roof off a warehouse in one of the city's commercial districts. In other parts of the city, trees were uprooted, signs knocked down, and low-lying parts filled with rushing water.
Meanwhile, a preliminary investigation shows the severe turbulence on a Singapore Airlines flight last week was caused by rapid changes in gravitational force. A 73-year-old British man died of a suspected heart attack when the plane suddenly dropped 54 meters last week. Investigators say the plane was flying over Myanmar when it started to vibrate due to changes in G-force. It then increased altitude, possibly because of an updraft, causing the autopilot to try to pitch the plane down to its earlier altitude. The pilots manually controlled the plane for 21 seconds to stabilize it before re-engaging the autopilot.
Also tonight, outcry over accessible Taylor Swift seating. The tickets allegedly snatched up by those who don't need them, being resold for a fortune. We look into the matter in moments.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, changes are coming to the capital gains system next month. The government says they will only affect Canada's wealthy. But a senior trying to help her family is shocked. She'll have to pay an extra $40,000 in taxes. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
After early blasts of summer-like weather, we've seen a bit of a cool down yesterday and today. Not by much, but we were shy of seasonal once again. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we rebound just in time for the start of the meteorological summer season. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Next month, the federal government will change the capital gains inclusion rate from 50% to 67% on amounts over $250,000.
Canada's finance minister says the changes will only affect Canada's wealthiest, but not everyone sees it that way. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan. And Michelle, a senior wanted to help her family by giving away 2 lots so that one day they might be able to build homes there. Even though she gave away the land for free, she was shocked that she'll still have to pay $40,000 in capital gains.
I have wonderful memories of this place. Just wonderful.
93-year-old Liz Diachin has had this farm property in Warkworth, northeast of Cobourg, for 58 years. Across the road in front of her home is a small plot of land she owns. Since her daughter and grandson each currently rent homes, she decided to give them the land to help out.
There's a couple of lots there that you could build on. And of course, they were thrilled.
Diachin's lawyer told her even though she was giving the land away, she would still have to get it appraised to pay capital gains.
And I said, why should I pay capital gain? You know, I'm not selling it to them. I'm gifting it to them.
One lot has a hydro tower on it and the other is partial wetlands. Still, it was valued at over $250,000. Diachin was told she must pay $40,000 in capital gains taxes.
I said, are you kidding? Are you kidding? I'm on pension. Like, how am I going to pay for that?
The government said changes to the capital gains system will only impact Canada's richest citizens.
We're making Canada's tax system more fair by ensuring that the very wealthiest pay their fair share.
Liz, are you rich?
Are you kidding me? I'm 93 years old. Like, who's going to give me a mortgage? Or who's going to give me a loan?
It's created a lot of uncertainty.
Real estate lawyer Mark Weisletter says even when giving away property, CRA still wants its share of capital gains.
CRA makes it very clear that when you transfer a property, even by gift, it is deemed to have been transferred at fair market value.
Diachin feels the tax system is unfair.
When families are trying to help other members of the family, they're being penalized for it. Let them tax the wealthy, and that's fine, because they're not going to miss it, but we sure are.
And many families are trying to make decisions on cottages, businesses, and properties before the June 25th deadline. If you have questions about capital gains, you're best to speak to your accountant or estate planner. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, we are into a really nice, quite long stretch of sunshine. I love late spring weather, just the freshness in the air. It's not too hot, although folks with allergies, I know they're having a rough time right now.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of kicking in. But it is, yeah, we got a few more days left in this month, and the temperatures are looking really good.
They are. And for allergy season, because we had such a mild start to the spring season, it is extra. So it's not just, something that is affecting a few people. It really is a different season this year for a lot of different reasons. But the good news is we are holding on to this sunshine as we wrap up the week and step into the start of the meteorological summer season on Saturday. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Sunshine start to finish, low humidity and northerly flow to the wind, making it a beautiful day to spend some time outdoors and not have that 1-2 punch of that heat and humidity we saw just a few days ago. After that cold front swept through and that rain moved out, we saw such a beautiful start to the day today, and this continues into the evening and the end of the week as well. We're still at 18 right now, 19 through Windsor, Thunder Bay at 20, a bit of a ridge in the jet stream over the southern prairies and portions of northern Ontario that border with Manitoba, keeping them a little bit warmer. As we head in towards this evening, we'll drop down to 9, so we're shy of seasonal. It is not cold by any means, but we just feel cool in comparison to how warm it's been. Areas where it is a little chilly, Owen Sound, Goderich, Orillia, Perry Sound, they're under a frost advisory. It's a little chilly there tonight, so for those temperature-sensitive plants, you want to cover them. Toronto, the GTA, we're not included in that, but it's still a noticeably cooler night. Into the day tomorrow, just 19 for the high, but a lot of sunshine, so it's a beautiful day, very similar to today. We're not looking at much in the way of any active weather as a few areas of high pressure move in. Much more stable air. They rotate clockwise as opposed to counterclockwise like a low pressure system. So it's just a much calmer day ahead as we head into the last few days of May. This evening, nice and clear, really no change into the day tomorrow. It's honestly just super nice outside. A fairly moderate UV index verging on high, so still sunscreen really important and sun protection in general. As we head in towards the start of the weekend, the beginning of June, really right on par for that seasonal mark. So we are just shy of seasonal throughout the day tomorrow. Getting in towards our day on Friday, we're back up to that seasonal norm for the high, still a single-digit low, but Saturday, Sunday, spot on for seasonal when it comes to those June temperature norms. So beautiful start to finish. The chance of maybe some passing showers late Saturday, early Sunday when most people are asleep. And then as we head in towards Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it gets nicer and nicer and nicer as we welcome in the official or unofficial, depending on how you look at it, summer season. Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, vindication for the world's top golfer. The criminal charges against Scottie Scheffler have been dropped, putting an end to a bizarre legal saga. A new campaign from Casey House targets the very people who we'd expect to be the most knowledgeable about HIV transmission.
But as our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, even among healthcare workers, stigma is still a problem.
are denied health
The new PSA is focused on the stigma that's still found in those who should be best educated about how HIV is and is not transmitted, people in healthcare settings.
could be contributing to depression, treatment avoidance, and negative healthcare outcomes.
But the video offers a cure to stigma, Stigmavir, an imaginary medicine that's a variation on the names of antiretroviral drugs which now keep HIV patients living well and with undetectable levels of the virus.
1 in 5 Canadians are denied health care because of their HIV status, and 80% of Canadians really struggle to disclose their HIV status because of discrimination.
It's a problem Yasser Ali Khan has faced personally, and he says for some people, HIV stigma already comes on top of other stigmas.
The transgender community, which is totally neglected in these kind of things, and when we are talking about these communities of who are doing sex work, who is diagnosed, who's drug users, and they always face stigma.
Toronto's medical officer of health, Dr. Eileen DeVilla, offered her support at the launch of the campaign.
First and foremost, as with almost any issue, it starts with awareness that there is a problem.
And CEO Joanne Simon says education is key.
I do think that that is where it starts, right? Med school and stigma and HIV is a very tiny part of the curriculum, so we would love to be able to introduce more of that within the medical school and universities across Canada.
You can find the new campaign video at smashstigma.ca.
HIV deserve the same care as you and me.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A major update to share with you tonight, 2 weeks after the world's top golfer was arrested in Kentucky.
My office cannot move forward in the prosecution of the charges filed against Mr. Scheffler.
The charges have been dropped. Scotty Scheffler was facing charges including assaulting an officer. Police accused the 27-year-old of ignoring the instructions of an officer directing traffic in Louisville as he drove to the PGA Championship. They alleged Scheffler accelerated and dragged the cop with his car, which has now been found not to have happened. Both sides have now called the situation a misunderstanding. Scheffler's attorney says they will not be filing a civil lawsuit.
A big night for CTV News at the Canadian Screen Awards, walking away with a number of honors. CTV National News with Omar Sachedina was named Best National Newscast. Power Play with Vashi Kapelos won Best Political Program, and W5 won the Best News and Information segment for their Narco Avocados episode.
Automaker Nissan issues a warning to roughly 48,000 vehicle owners not to drive some of its older models. The reason for the urgent recall coming up.
Teeing up Canada's biggest golf tournament.
Some of the biggest names in the sport are here for the RBC Canadian Open, and Bill Coulter will be live in Hamilton, soaking it all in.
CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
It's also a serious health and safety issue. Minister, you know the problem very well. You have underfunded school repairs for years.
Updating our top stories, flooding at Humberside Collegiate led to a fiery debate in the Ontario legislature today. The opposition is calling on the government to make sure Ontario schools are in working order. The education minister says the TDSB is sitting on millions of dollars earmarked for dealing with its repair log.
It's one of the most dangerous roads in the city to both walk and cycle on. So this is long overdue, and we could have had some preventable deaths if we'd not been stuck in bureaucracy.
The city is looking at adding bike lanes to a stretch of Avenue Road that's been deemed a safety concern. Next month, council will consider reducing the current 6-lane street down to 4 lanes to add bike lanes. Opponents warn it will only make traffic worse in the area.
If I'm being honest, the first word that comes to mind is probably addiction.
And 5 more Ontario school boards have joined a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the biggest social media companies in the world. The boards say the social media apps were designed to be addictive to young people and have led to a disruption in classroom learning.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca. You can download the CTV News app. And if you ever have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar is down about 1/3 cent to 72.91 US. American benchmark oil lost 60 cents to close at 78.23 a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index dropped 367 points to end the day at 21,897.98.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Nissan is urging owners of tens of thousands of older vehicles to stop driving and contact their dealerships because of the risk of exploding airbags. This comes after one person was killed by an exploding inflator. 58 others have been injured since 2015. The Do Not Drive warning covers Nissan Sentra models from 2002 to 2006, Pathfinder SUVs from 2002 through to 2004, and Infiniti QX4 SUVs from 2002 and 2003. Approximately 48,000 vehicles are impacted here in Canada.
There are many disappointed Taylor Swift fans who didn't get tickets to her upcoming Toronto shows.
But for fans who require accessible seats, there is an added level of disappointment, seeing those seats going to fans who don't need them. CTV's Janice Golding reports.
Charmaine Tootsie checks out a ticket reseller today, hunting for Taylor Swift tickets for her daughter's 13th birthday.
$16,000. Who's paying this money to go to a concert? I would like to know what disabled celebrity is sitting in this seat.
The Ajax mother, who has spina bifida, needs wheelchair-accessible seats, but says a new system designed to weed out scalpers, bots, and resellers has hurt fans with disabilities.
You can do a random draw and choose 1 million people and not choose a single disabled person.
Last August, 31 million people registered on Ticketmaster, hoping to be issued a special code to purchase Toronto tickets. Tootsie says people with disabilities were forced to deal with this barrier before they could even apply for one of the limited accessible seats.
We need to be in our own draw, in our own lottery, to apply for codes for our seats.
Tootsie didn't get a code or a ticket, but resellers are now selling accessible tickets for astronomical sums.
The week that the tickets were released, there were 35 wheelchair accessible seats on StubHub for $4,000 to $7,000 a ticket. And now they're up to $16,000 a ticket.
Ticketmaster declined formal comment, but its website says accessible tickets are reserved solely for fans with disabilities and their companions. Fans who abuse this policy could have their order canceled.
This is where the provincial government has failed us. Their customer service accessibility standard is paltry and inadequate, and their enforcement is ostensibly pathetic.
Professor David Lepofsky of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance calls the situation outrageous.
An individual like this who just wants to go to a concert shouldn't have to now go and file a human rights complaint and maybe 4 years from now get to a hearing.
What disabled people do they think have this money?
Tootsie says she feels like Ticketmaster has forgotten it has an obligation to provide a service to disabled clients.
I feel like I'm a who down in Whoville screaming, "We are here," and no one's listening.
Meanwhile, while saying they follow all accessibility laws, the Toronto Blue Jays and Rogers Centre told CTV News today they could not provide us with a definitive number of wheelchair-accessible seats for concerts. Janice Golding, CTV News.
Banksy is the most famous graffiti artist in the world, but his work is comprised of so much more than spray paint.
And Toronto is now hosting the mystery artist's work in an unauthorized exhibit. And as CTV's Andrea Case reports, we may not know who he is, but his work speaks volumes.
Banksy has returned to Toronto. There are dozens of pieces, original and prints, but be warned, security is tighter than ever. In 2018, the show came for 3 months, sold 100,000 tickets, and went on to tour across the United States. But Michelle Boersma, the curator, says he'll never forget there was a problem with one piece of art.
It was stolen.
Was it ever recovered?
No.
Not deterred, the Banksy exhibit has returned to Toronto with 161 pieces of art valued at $35 million, and it's bigger and better than ever.
Double the amount of art. Many of them are, pieces that you wouldn't have seen if you came in 2018. New location here at #1 Yonge Street in the Lighthouse Art Space. And lots of pieces that haven't been seen by anyone before.
Not curated or authorized by the artist, the pieces are all owned by collectors and friends of the artist, some more famous than others.
Well, it's Mona Lisa, but this is Banksy's own Mona Lisa, and he made it and sold it to Brad Pitt 20 years ago. And then 4 years ago, asked to get it back. And he made more changes to it.
Another popular piece often duplicated the original flower thrower. As for what makes Banksy internationally revered,
when you see a Banksy like here or behind me, there's an immediate reaction. It's humorous, it confronts you, it's sometimes like rough, but it has an immediate reaction. You don't have to stand here for an hour and go like, what does the artist mean? It's clear.
No one knows who Banksy is, not even those working closely with him have met him in person. Have you ever met him?
I don't know. You could be Banksy.
I am not Banksy. The Art of Banksy exhibit is here in Toronto, and it's open right now. In over 20 years as an artist, this is the most extensive exhibit of his work. You may be familiar with a lot of the pictures, but now you can hear the stories behind them. The Art of Banksy is open until Labor Day. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Those works look so good and the weather picturesque.
It really does, and it's beautiful as we wrap up the month of May. It's been kind of a roller coaster, right? We've seen some really warm temperatures, humidex values in the 30s, and then now we're back towards a more seasonal mark as we wrap up the month of May. Not a ton in the way of active weather right now, holding on to a decent amount of sunshine until the sun sets this evening. Temperature-wise, still in that mid to upper teen range as we kind of wrap up our day today. And as we step in towards the end of the week, things start to steadily climb. We're right on par for seasonal as we step in towards our Saturday and Sunday, welcoming in the month of June. The meteorological start to the summer season is June 1st, and then we kick off the astronomical start on June the 20th. And a reminder about the new Lotto 649 with 2 big jackpots to be won on 1 ticket. Tonight's classic jackpot is $5 million. And the new gold ball jackpot is $56 million. You can head to olg.ca for more information. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.